Wow, I really wasn't kidding when he said they don't feel amphibia, right? Except for a little fog sound in that, which is really annoying. But yeah, I noticed. Yeah, it's really cool how even in the even for seemingly trivial storylines on the planet's journey to Utopia, they turn out to be important plot elements in later episodes of season 3, like an Ann Hunter, Sprig and Ann's nature dance that Abby Park's parents called stripper music was also something done by Sprig and Polly's mother, or other distant ancestor named Leaf in The Core and the King. And the Olms from Quarreller's Past, they came back in the episodes Old Town Road and Mother of Olms. And the mushrooms from those zombie mushrooms, mind controls thingies from Apothecary Gary came back in Commander Anne and The Root of All Evil. Oh man, after watching that, I feel really sad for Marcy now. After watching that clip of her and after seeing a clip of her from the beginning of the episode, the beginning of the end, now I see why she wanted to trap Sasha and Anne with her amphibia forever. Anne and Sasha, I mean, sure, Anne and Sasha had a right to cut her off when she's about to spoil a movie she likes. But otherwise, it was really insensitive of Anne and Sasha to just fall asleep during the movie they were supposed to be watching with Marcy during that sleepover at Anne's house. And yeah, that's the thing about sleep for Anne and Sasha. It's pretty insensitive of Anne and Sasha to go to sleep during the movie they should be watching with Marcy Wu when Anne and Sasha's, and when later on in the sleepover and all sleepovers, Anne and Marcy's whole purpose of having another sleepover party together and in the Utopia Castle with Marcy was that they wanted to stay awake until the morning and never ever go to sleep. And if I was Marcy Wu, I'd also feel really sad about. I'd also be really sad about that I didn't have enough time for Anne and Sasha to share my interest or keep an open mind to my two uncommon interests before my parents got a new job out of state, which is why at first I thought I would have been fine with Marcy moving away in the end. But now I think, if Anne and Sasha want to be better friends now, after Darcy Wu called them out, that is, Dark Marcy or maybe Darth Marcy, calling them out for being terrible friends in the beginning of the end. If Anne and Sasha want to shape up their friendship with Marcy now, then they're going to need to come up with a very convincing argument for why Marcy's family shouldn't move out of state. Because I really hope that all three of them survive and make it back home alive and get Marcy Wu and save Marcy Wu from, that they find a way to separate Marcy Wu from the core with Darcy. But even if they do get back together in the end, it's probably still going to be a really sad ending if Marcy has to accept moving out anyways before Anne and Sasha had any time to truly be friends with her and not just ignore her interests. Because if Marcy's family is still going away in the end, if Marcy still has to move away with her family after all of this, it's going to be very hard for her to say that it's no big deal, no big deal. Speaking of the sleepover, end all sleepovers, I watched that again today, and I also realized that, when Anne, Sprig, Polly, and Marcy run past a painting of King Andrias as friend and his friends that he literally tore, and Anne or Marcy said someone really hated this painting. And there's like a bushy creature in the basement of the castle in Hollywood. They're trying to get out and go back, and found their way back into Marcy's bedroom beneath the carpet. Door on the floor beneath the carpet. Yeah, those two things also became an important part of the story later in the flashback of King Andrias and Leaf of King Andrias, Leaf, and Veril in the Core and the King. When Leaf does nature dance that is passed on to generations of her family to Sprig and even Polly once she gets a little taller. I mean, she probably didn't have the legs yet than she did in True Colors. I still think she was too short and spherical to do that nature dance that Sprig and Leaf and Anne were doing. But yeah, I noticed it's strange. Maybe it's because of the pandemic, considering I just see so many references to so many little references to the coronavirus pandemic without actually having it written into Amphibia's third season. And because Sprig's wearing a mask most of the time in the episode set on Earth. But yeah, I can't help but get the feeling that if the 17th and 18th episodes, the ones after the beginning of the end, are going to be the final episodes of the series, I can't help but wonder if there were cutbacks, because in season 2, the mid-season finale was a Halloween episode, and it was episode 10 of 20, but in season 3, the mid-season finale was a Christmas episode that was, I guess, episode 9 of 18. If the last two, I'm actually kind of sad about that possibility that the 17th and 18th episodes of Amphibia's third season might be its last, because I really thought, I heard half a year ago that Amphibia's third season was going to have 20 episodes like the previous two. It would have been nice to have it would have been nice for the show to come full circle in 60 episodes in 3 seasons like Avatar: The Last Airbender did before it. 15 years before Amphibia. So I'm really sad and disappointed about Amphibia needing to cut one episode out of each half of the third season, unless the 19th and 20th episode titles haven't been announced yet, and there's more to come after the hardest, and there's a little more to come after the hardest thing, or maybe the remaining 2 episodes that we have after the beginning of the end are both 2 episodes long. Maybe they're a full hour, and they're actually the last 4 episodes together because of how long the story is after. Spoiler alert, the beginning of the end, well, it's the beginning of the end not just because of the revelation that Anne and Sasha were not the best friends to Marcy before she learned her parents were getting a new job out of state, but also because in the beginning of the end, well, it ends with King Andrias and his army of robots and newts finally coming back to Earth, where we'll get to see what's been going on with Anne's parents and Mr. X in the last 6 episodes. You know, I have to say, I really like Escape to Amphibia, though. It's everything I hoped it would be and more. It was nice to have a good send-off to all the characters who became friends with the Amphibia characters, the main Amphibia characters, except yeah, it was nice to see them give Gabby. Yeah, it was pretty cool to see most of the allies that Anne and the Planters have made during the first half of the 3rd season help them get back to Amphibia and escape Mr. X for the 3rd and final time. And as luck would have it, everyone who appeared in that shot of, you know, the humans, the major human characters we see from Earth in the 3rd season of Amphibia, they all had a big role to play in Escape to Amphibia, and Molly Jo from Spider Sprig was an added bonus who didn't originally appear in the season 3 opening, which I thought was very cool that they bring her back from Spider Sprig, even if they did originally have plans to do that when Amphibia's artists and animators and music composers made this opening. Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting now. I sort of thought the second half of season 3 would have a different opening sequence after what we like to do, but since the last few episodes are going to take place back on Earth, it turns out that having an opening sequence wasn't really necessary like I thought it would be. But yeah, if any friends of Anne and the Planters that we saw that had a big part in one episode get to come back in the series finale, I really would like to see Bella, Sal, Gabby, and Ned again. And even if they don't come back, that's okay with me. But I know Matt Braley is not one to forget them that easily. I don't want to forget major characters from one episode very easily. Really good to have an important part again in his big finale story. But it's okay with me if the last episode decides not to show Gabby, Ned, Sal, or Bella again. What I really want to see is the 2 biggest things that I really want to see happen in the next 2 Amphibia episodes to come, the final 2 episodes, are for Dr. Jan to finally have a big face-off against King Andrias and help Anne Choi in the final fight against his army, because I'd be more surprised if Matt Braley wasn't planning something big for Andrias and Jan when they're voiced by the same people who played the main antagonist and the main protagonist of The Princess and the Frog. It can't be a coincidence. Seriously, I really think it's a coincidence that Amphibia and The Princess and the Frog are both about frogs, and they both have Keith David playing the main antagonist, and then later supporting antagonist in Amphibia, and Inikanoni Rose playing the main protagonist and then the supporting protagonist in Amphibia. So that's exactly why the time is now, in the last 2 episodes, to reunite Dr. Jan and King Andrias as voice actors from The Princess and the Frog at last. And most important, but most importantly, even if The Princess and the Frog reunion of voice actors, I want to see those happen. what I most importantly want to see happen in at the end of Amphibia's third season, what would really be an epic way to go out would be for them to have a third musical showdown, because the first two seasons of Amphibia made pretty exciting episodes out of that before, with Fiddle Me This and Battle of the Bands. And this time the stakes will be much, much higher than those other two times. Yeah, that would actually be kind of cool seeing Anne, and I'd love to watch the heck out of Anne and Jan compete with the Darcy and Andrias. Let's have a big musical showdown or dance off, something like that, something to make this feel fresher than anything good times. Because it's always pretty good, because it's always pretty cool, and I always like it when a TV show is able to keep things fresh by having an annual tradition of something cool to do every season, like the Cake episodes with the Kids Next Door, or the International Cable from Rick and Morty, or the Halloween Heist and Doug Judy episodes in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So, I'd be very, very sad if Amphibia didn't have... I'd be pretty sad and disappointed. I'd be super disappointed in Amphibia's series finale if they don't have if the penultimate episode isn't another musical showdown following the great tradition of Fiddle Me This and Battle of the Bands. But as long as Matt Braley and the other Amphibia writers know how to wrap up their story, and not to rush the final don't rush the final decision of whether or not Marcy's family is going to move out of state or not. If we have a satisfying conclusion and answer as to whether or not Marcy will get to stay with her BFFs and Sasha and maybe Gabby.
It's no big deal, yeah, no big deal.
That's what I call a Brenda song. Yeah, it's funny, her last name is Song, and she gets to sing a really cool best friend song with Anna Katana and Haley Zhu. That's cute, funny. Yeah, I think when Anne sung high at the end, it didn't sound like her. That was probably Brenda's song with real voice. Real singing voice at least. Yeah, that's why Anne sounded a bit different at the end. Like sounded a little older. But yeah, even if there is no once again, even if there is no musical showdown in Amphibia's third season like the previous two seasons had, I'd still really, really love to see Anne, Sasha, and Marcy perform a reprise of that song at the end of the final episode if they manage to amend their friendship. You know, fix all the toxins, fix and purge out all the toxins of their toxic friendship, and not get killed by King Andrias and his army in the process. Darcy, he already killed Marcy once at the end of True Colors. I don't want Marcy to die again. Nobody does. Just too lovable and can't speak for them. So, are you with me? Would you like to see Amphibia end with a third musical showdown, or a big face-off between the main stars of The Princess and the Frog, the actors that play Dr. Jan and King Andrias, together at last, battle? Tell me what you think in the comments below. That would be super cool if Dr. Jan had been hiding some cool fighting skills all along.
Killer birds, but it's no big deal.